Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Big Mac, and today we are going to discuss why I absolutely despise the Four Kings. But before we get into that, a little background for those who have no idea who these Four Kings are. Though I'm sure since you clicked on this video, you have some semblance of idea. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of it, but there's this quaint little game known as Dark Souls. In the game, you play as some lonely, washed-up undead loser who wakes up one day in prison for his crimes against humanity. He wakes up, finds a key from a fellow loser, who proceeds to die about 11 seconds later. Then we get to explore this dungeon, fight some ogre, yada yada yada, brawl some skeletons, fight some ghouls, blah blah blah. I mean, come on. You all get the gist of these games. We create a character, brawl some bosses and enemies, and die horrifically about 11,000 times. Just the way we like it. We all know what Dark Souls is, but do we know who these rapscallions are? Well, in the first Dark Souls game, our goal is to ring a couple of bells, fight a couple of Geneva Convention violators, and then hunt down a quartet of bosses in order to unlock the final boss. Spoilers, I guess, if you can even spoil a Dark Souls game, but these bosses include a giant dragon, a skeletal Lord of the Depths, a giant bed of fire thingamadoodad that I think is supposed to be like a witch lady or something, and of course, our lovely squadron of royalty. Now, while I do deeply detest the Four Kings boss fight due to how much pain and agony I had to endure at their hands, I do have to admit that they just so happen to be the best fight in this absolutely atrocious set of final fights to this game. But that is a conversation for another day. For today, we will simply be talking about the Four Kings boss fight, what the fight includes, and why I died a couple of times to them, and definitely did not spend over 4 hours trying to beat them. So let's get right into what this fight is all about before I cry and start to pout. First off, a brief introduction to what goes on immediately preceding the fight. Bow, 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 bow. The Four Kings fight takes place in the New Londo Ruins area of the game, though the path to get to the fight can only be unlocked by talking to this old man right here after beating Ornstein and Schmo. Trust me, I didn't kill him to take his armor. I just kind of found it lying around somewhere. Yeah. Anyway, to get there, you have to be at Firelink Shrine, go down this set of stairs, take this elevator, walk across this bridge, jump down this gap right here, move past a couple of pretty easy to dodge enemy attacks, and walk through this gate. Then, unless you get shanked by these ghosts that can somehow go through the white gas portal, which is absolutely blasphemous by the way, you just go down this stairwell and drop into the dark void below and promptly perish. You know this fight is going to be an absolute blast when you literally need to wear a specific ring that lets you walk in the black abyss it takes place in. This requires you to kill a giant wolf that swings a 563 centimeter sword at you. After you do all that, you arrive in the Dark Void and can relax for about 14 nanoseconds before being greeted by some fairly panic-inducing music as one of these giant menaces appears and we can finally begin the fight. Unfortunately, things only go downhill from there. Let's get into some of the specific features that made this boss fight make me want to cannonball into a pool of ice. Firstly, fighting one of these big fellas is not too difficult in and of itself. In fact, it's pretty easy, just basic stab, swipe, grab, and AoE attacks that at this point in the game are pretty easy to read, given all the fights with similar moves preceding this. Unless you're me, of course. However, the issue comes with the fact that these guys are absolute tanks who eat damage like they're some Portillo's cheese fries. Don't even get me started on New Game Plus. You see, during this fight, I used a +5 Fire Schmiter, how do you say it? I don't know. Fully upgraded. that had gotten me through every other mandatory boss in the game, besides the kings and what's-his-face at the end. Unfortunately, in this fight, I quickly realized that my attacks did diddly squat against these porcupines, and they took a metric schnoz ton of hits in order to even put a dent in their health. Take this along with the fact that after about another 40 to 50 seconds, yes, I timed it, another one spawns in, and then another, and then another. So, given this atrocious damage output I was giving, along with the fact that I had 4 dudes ganging up on me, you can see why this fight made me not very happy. But that is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how painful this fight was for me. So allow me to expand upon the everlasting torment that this fight inflicted upon my soul. Or, why I struggled fighting the boss. Well, when it comes to some really difficult or annoying boss fights in the Souls series, you can usually learn most of their moves within their arsenal pretty easily. Like I said before, especially for this fight, basic sweeps, thrusts, and swings. However, there always seems to be that one move, that one attack that you can just not figure out, and so it is with this fight. But while most fights have an attack that you can't figure out because it's just too hard to dodge, the Four Kings have an attack that's relatively easy to dodge, but somehow completely tips the fight in their favor every time it comes up, especially when I first fought this boss. And that would be this little ray projectile thing right here. Now, this isn't any regular projectile that a boss chucks at you. They actually have another one of those. No. This right here is not only a heat seeker that locks onto you even if you dodge it and chases you around the whole area, but it follows you for about 6 minutes before it decides to disappear. One of these alone would be nothing to deal with and relatively easy to dodge, but if you have a couple of them, along with 4 humongous individuals swinging their 40-foot sabers at you, you can see where the problem starts to form. Given that early on I was rarely able to kill one of the kings before all 4 of them joined in, this attack became a bit of a run killer. But that is when I devised a brilliant plan for when this attack came up. To run away. A little scorched earth operation, if you will, just without the scorching or the earth. But this unintentionally revealed the ugly head of another issue. The attack patterns of the kings. Now, I don't know if it's just me, and I think I'm fairly credible to talk about these guys, given that I had to fight them 129 times, but I could not for the life of me find a pattern to the way these troglodytes attack you. Sometimes they stand around and watch as you brawl one of their boys, other times they all converge at you at once, and sometimes they swing attacks randomly in the air despite being nowhere near you and the attack not coming anywhere close to hitting you. Nothing shows this better than the beginning of the fight with the first king, let's call him Stuart for reference. Stuart here will 9 times out of 10 glide up to you and hit you with one of his basic attacks, but there have literally been occasions where from 9,000 yards away, he decides to chuck one of those purple rays at you. I've even had a time where I've had 3, count 'em, 3 of those purple chips thrown at me at the same time. Oh, woe is me. Eventually, I was able to find a bit of a science on how to fight them. Generally speaking, especially with old Stuart at the beginning of the fight, the other kings tend to stay far enough away from you when you're attacking one of the kings up close that, even while swinging their dingoes in the air at random, they're usually unable to hit you from the distance they stay away. Keyword there being usually. However, the second you decide to disengage, either to heal or run away from those purple nurples they throw at you, all bets are off. Each one will attempt to engage you, leading to Mike Tyson combos of jabs and thrusts that would knock out even Little Mac, and I'm Big Mac, so it hurts all the more. Eventually, off of my pure skill and brilliance, and not RNG, I was able to take down a couple of the kings. But this leads me to a couple of other absolutely despicable things that make this fight even worse. Numero uno, the arena. You may be thinking, Mac, an endless arena with no obstacles or barriers in the way would be the perfect place to fight a 4-man gank fight, right? Wrong! You would think that this everlasting void of darkness would have no barriers, but that is far from the case. In fact, if you walk far enough in a certain direction, you will reach an invisible wall in the void that, especially while trying to regain your bearings with all 4 kings crashing down on top of you, killed a couple of really good runs for me. Numero dos. Respawn. What the? Now you may be thinking, just kidding, stop thinking. You would assume that after killing one of the 4 kings, you would only have to deal with 3, right? It's simple geography. Well, after about 50 seconds, you hear a little whoosh sound and see that another player has joined the field. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you out of your mind? You're telling me that the four kings fight, count 'em, uno, dos, tres, cuatro, kings, you would think that they would all have to be all you dealt with. But no. You have to deal with a technical infinite amount of kings until you die. Now, in actuality, there is probably only about 6 or 7 kings that will ever enter, given their dwindling health bar and only needing to kill a few to beat the fight. But with a low damage weapon like I had, having to endlessly deal with at least 4 kings at once made things a lot more difficult than they had to be. Now, with any one of these things, this fight would be annoying, but nothing too crazy. But it was this combination of things to be looking out for, from the minuscule damage to running into invisible walls to having 4 dudes attacking you at once, that made this fight not only the highest death total fight in this entire game for me, but one of the highest in the entire Souls series, or at least the ones I've played so far. Now, you may be wondering, Big Mac, how did you end up beating the 4 kings? Well, I'll tell you. After my long and difficult road to beating these 4 losers, the best ending would be for me to say that I eventually emerged the victor. I stuck it out with my puny little fire schmiter and using no items at all, like I had so many times before in previous boss fights. In actuality, I went to the blacksmith, upgraded Zale Wilder to Ascended plus 11, came back, absolutely annihilated them, no hitter quitter first try, and that's the end of it. All's well that ends well. Here's a bonus clip of me defeating the 4 kings for the first time on New Game Plus. If you enjoyed the video, please do to... Sorry. Yeah, never mind. Thanks for watching, ladies and gents. I'll see you guys next time.